Hey, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about things to put and not put in your contract. And one of the things that I mentioned was power requirements. And I want to make sure that I'm clear that I'm not saying you should not discuss power requirements with your clients, especially at a private residence or at like old historic buildings. So, but here's how I solve that. Rather than putting it in a contract where it gets lost, it gets buried with everything else. I think it requires, if you're not familiar with the venue, which would certainly be the case with every private residence, and we worked at a lot of private residences, I charge an additional fee of $200, sometimes $300, usually $200, not very much. But that $200 for me was included a site inspection to go out and see it. It included there's a little more cleanup because you end up with more dirt on your stuff because you're outside. And part of that site visit was whose place it was to visit with them. So, I'm dealing with the bride and groom, but it's her uncle's house. Then they do stuff there all the time. You know the story, right? So you go out, you want to meet with the uncle, like it's his house. And you need to talk to him. And what's really great is, and I'm not going to get into specific power requirements because we all have different requirements, and I'm clearly not qualified anyway. But once you go out there, the great thing about, Uncle Gus is he's the know-it-all guy, right? So he's gonna impress you with power. So when you go out, you say, so listen, I'm going to need a dedicated circuit. So where are you going to put me? And where's that power coming from? What else is on this circuit? Most of the time they know. And if they don't, say, well, let's figure that out now. Because like at my cabin in the mountains, it's wired so weird. I'm sitting currently in the back office of my cabin. My power in this back office is the same circuit as the front wall of my kitchen and my microwave, which is on the other side of my kitchen. There's no logic in that whatsoever, right? Things are wired really weird here. So let's find out what's on there, and let's not end up with coffee pots and heaters and things that are going to blow a circuit. So put your power requirements, and if you want to do the high tech specs for all of that, you can do that. For me, it was really just, look, if you give me a 15 amp circuit and leave everything else off of it, I'm fine. 20 is better, but I'm not running anything. We're not at a house. Certainly maybe you're going to run a projector on it, but again, everything's pretty, low energy absorbing sort of stuff, or energy using sort of stuff. So if you want to put that in some specs on a separate sheet from your contract, by all means do that. I didn't do that. I thought it made it difficult for people. So I wanted to always keep it simple, but go out and visit and find out where that's going to be. And a lot of times it's like, yeah, we're going to run, you're going to have power from the barn. Where's the barn? Well, the barn's 200 feet away. And I'm like, okay, so if we're going to run from the barn, we need to get power to here where I'm going to be. That can't be some 16 gauge or 18 gauge zip cord extension cord, right? I need at least a 10 gauge that's going to be a single cord. I don't want a bunch of them tied together to get out there where we can spill water on the connections and all that sort of stuff, right? So cover that stuff, your power requirements, in a separate visit, and I think you'll eliminate all your problems. I mean, in all the times we did this, we only had a couple of times where it was an issue, and it was where, predictably, where people didn't do what they said they were going to do. Somebody decided they were going to put all the coffee pots out in the barn or whatever. And it wouldn't have mattered if it was in my contract. All that does is help me if I go to court, and I'm not going to court over power supply issues. So that doesn't really help the issue. Hope that helps get you through this summer coming up, and I hope you work your tails off. See you next week.